Welcome to Figure Friday, the series where we explore the details of LEGO minifigures, including the characters' origins and backgrounds, and we try to match the LEGO figure to its reference material. In this inaugural episode of Figure Friday, we will explore a classic anti-hero, Wolverine. Throughout the period from 2012 to 2022, LEGO produced 4 Wolverine minifigures depicting various versions of the character, all related to his time spent with the X-Men. Before we get into that, who is Wolverine and where did he come from? The X-Men is a team of mutants created by the iconic comic developer Stan Lee in 1963, who battle good versus evil. There are many characters in the X-Men universe, but the one that is arguably the most iconic is Wolverine. However, believe it or not, Wolverine did not get his start with the X-Men. In 1974, Marvel Comics requested a new character named Wolverine be created, and Len Wein and John Romita Sr. were tasked with development. From there, Wolverine, a Canadian-born mutant with a smaller-than-average stature, fierce temper, retractable claws, and the ability to regenerate, was designed. Like many comic book character introductions, Wolverine appeared as a cameo character in an already established comic. Wolverine's first cameo appearance was in the issue 180 of the Incredible Hulk comic from 1974. On the last page of the issue, in the middle of the long battle where Incredible Hulk fought a monster named Wendigo, Wolverine appeared in a teaser panel where his brief history and demeanor were vaguely portrayed. The next issue, Incredible Hulk 181 from 1974, featured Wolverine's first full appearance where he helped the Hulk defeat Wendigo, then ultimately fought the Hulk himself, showing his temper, stamina, and healing powers. Even though Wolverine donned many costumes throughout the years, we will focus on the ones arguably used as the inspiration for the LEGO minifigures. The first Wolverine LEGO figure, number SH017 from 2012, came in set number 6866, Wolverine's Chopper Showdown, with 2 other figures depicting Deadpool and Magneto. This Wolverine has the quintessential spiked hairdo, long sideburns, and unshaven appearance, but he does not wear the iconic mask. Upon closer examination of his costume, it is the classic yellow and blue color with belt and blue tiger stripes. However, this costume has the stripes continuing onto the legs and has his mask hanging off his shoulders down his back. Additionally, there's an X-Men emblem on his belt buckle. Even though he wore many yellow costumes with tiger stripes, only one of his costumes depicted the blue stripes continuing down his legs. This was the costume used during his tenure in the Astonishing X-Men. The first appearance of the Astonishing X-Men costume was in annual issue number 1 of Astonishing X-Men from 2004. However, there are a few notable differences in the comic uniform and the LEGO minifigure design. The comic had shoulder pads and shin-high boots in the same color as the tiger stripes, had a brown thick utility belt, and had an X-Men emblem on the left breast. Additionally, the comic showed Wolverine with a clean-shaven face with long sideburns. The LEGO minifigure has no shoulder pads, boots, or X-Men emblem on the left breast, has a thin gray belt, and shows Wolverine with an unshaven face. All that being said, the hair design is very similar to the comic version, and the detail of the LEGO minifigure's mask hanging down Wolverine's back is spot on to the comic. After the annual issue number 1, Astonishing X-Men came out with another issue number 1 where Wolverine's costume had a few minor changes that benefit the LEGO minifigure costume. As shown in the comic, the breast emblem is no longer present and the belt changed color to what appears to be the same color as the tiger stripes. Additionally, Wolverine's face is unshaven with long sideburns. Even though the LEGO minifigure costume does not have the shoulder pads or boots, and does not have the correct belt, the LEGO figure is very close representation to the source material, and even has very good details with the head and mask. Therefore, this figure gets a B+ overall for its depiction of Wolverine's costume in the source material. The second LEGO Wolverine figure, number SH118 from 2014, came in set number 76022, X-Men vs. the Sentinel, with 3 other figures, Magneto, Storm, and Cyclops. This Wolverine dons the brown and yellow costume with the mask, long sideburns, and unshaven appearance. Additionally, there is a red belt with an X-Men emblem on his belt buckle. Wolverine only wore his brown and yellow costume a few times throughout the years. One first appeared in the Uncanny X-Men issue 139 from 1980, and another debuted in Uncanny X-Men 13 from 2019. Because the appearance of the costume in 2019 hadn't occurred as of the production of the LEGO minifigure, it will not be used in the comparison. As shown in the comic, the costume had a few differences than the LEGO minifigure. The comic costume had brown shoulder pads and boots, and it had a normal belt buckle. Also, Wolverine's face, while having the long sideburns, is clean shaven. Overall, the LEGO minifigure costume does not have the shoulder pads or boots, does not have the correct belt, and is unshaven, but is still a very close representation to the source material. Therefore, this figure gets a B+ overall for its depiction of Wolverine's costume. The third LEGO Wolverine figure, number SH364 from 2017, came in set number 76073, Mighty Micro's Wolverine vs. Magneto, with one other figure, Magneto. This Wolverine dons the yellow and blue costume with tiger stripes again, but this time he has blue legs without different color briefs, a thick belt with the X-Men emblem, and he is clean shaven except for the long sideburns. This Wolverine figure has the most inconsistencies with the source material of all the Wolverine minifigures. In order to generate the costume for this figure, two separate Wolverine comic costumes must be used. The first costume is from the Uncanny X-Men 273 from 1991, where Wolverine wore blue leggings. This costume was a throwback to the very beginning of the X-Men, where they wore these uniforms in X-Men 1 from 1963. This costume had the same hair, belt, and leggings, but different from the figure in that Wolverine's costume in the comic had blue material on the sides of his torso and sleeves, no tiger stripes, and yellow shoulder pads, gloves, and boots. To get a better look at Wolverine's face, we have to look at the next issue, the Uncanny X-Men 274. Here it shows Wolverine is clean shaven with long sideburns. In order to get the rest of the figure's costume, we must look at X-Men Adventures issue number 1 from 1992. This costume mixed the tiger stripe design with the X-Men emblem on the belt. However, the leggings were yellow and it had blue shoulder pads, gloves, briefs, and boots. This issue also has the Wolverine as clean shaven with long sideburns. Considering the fact that in order to come close to finding a costume similar to the LEGO figure, we had to combine two separate costumes from the comics, this figure's grade is the lowest of all the figures discussed in this video. Thus, this figure gets a C- overall for its depiction of Wolverine's costume. The final LEGO Wolverine figure, number SH805 from 2022, came in set number 76202, Wolverine Mech Armor. This Wolverine dons the yellow and blue costume with tiger stripes again, however the stripes are smaller than the other figures. Also this time he has yellow briefs, a belt with a square X-Men emblem, and is unshaven with long sideburns. The costume most closely resembling the minifigure costume is the one from the 1992 X-Men animated series TV show. In the series, Wolverine's costume had the smaller tiger stripes and a square X-Men emblem on his belt. However, the notable differences are that the animated series costume had blue shoulder pads, briefs, and boots, and was clean shaven. Despite the lack of shoulder pads, boots, and briefs, and the difference in facial hair, the remainder of the LEGO minifigure costume is close to the source material. So it receives a higher grade than the previous figure, but because it has more inconsistencies than the first two, it will receive a lower grade than those. Thus this figure gets a B overall for its depiction of Wolverine's costume. Overall, LEGO produced 4 very good Wolverine minifigures that mostly represent the source material. LEGO seemed to do its homework when developing these figures, and it definitely shows. This makes these figures very desirable for the avid Wolverine and LEGO fan. Personally, I like and appreciate the brown and yellow version of the figure the most. It has a nostalgic feel to it and makes me reminisce. Thanks for watching this episode of Figure Friday. Tune in next time where we explore figures from a galaxy far, far away. Wolverine's first cameo appearance was in issue 180 of the Incredible. On the last page of the issue, in the middle of a long battle, where the Incredible. The next issue, the Incredible. I'm gonna get that word at some point. There's a dog barking outside.